Legacy, the MJ doc, and then we'll finish a little pop culture, a little bit of around the horn movies. If you'd like to give back to the podcast, we are on Cash App at the Escape Pod. We're at Cash App the Escape Pod. If you'd like to give back, this is a free podcast that you can find on Pub Sports Radio, but just an option there. Sean, start us off, man. How was your week? First take, and we're not Skip Bayless.
All right, week's going good, man. Just really settling into the quarantine life. Just trying to stay positive, trying to stay sharp, keeping up with the news. Nothing new really happening with me. But I will say that trying to take more of a positive spin on things. I think we have a lot of time to work on ourselves, catch up on some reading. There's no excuse to not get that project done that you've been putting off, and so just trying to keep myself busy, staying positive. That's about it, man.
Absolutely. Johnny?
Yeah, things are, again, like I said, it's always been going good for me. Staying in shape, working out. My dad's building all kinds of crap at his house. I'm like, what's going on? I show up and there's literally a shed in the backyard. I'm like, where did that come from? I had to go put the plywood on the other day because he didn't want to climb up there. But yeah, all good. I feel good about things opening back up. I've never been scared of this thing for 1 second. I would have gone to Wuhan, China in a G-string and walked through the middle of the street wherever it came from. So, yeah, I'm not worried about
JB.
it.
Well, drifting deeper into depression as this goes on. Yeah, and it was because of the quarantine and all that stuff and not being able to coming home to the madness and all that. And now it's kind of depression geared towards the reopening of stuff. It's like I would like to be able to go out and live my life like everyone else does. I'm not really convinced that the speed at which we're racing towards that is a good thing. But,
do you think there will be a bounce back?
We'll get to
yeah, maybe. But yeah, man, other than that, trying to read and write a little bit and not be just a complete waste man, but that's only half successful. So.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, same thing as you guys. I mean, I've been stealing basically like all of you guys. I'm about halfway through Sapiens. I just finished.
Fuck yeah, dude.
I just finished. I just finished the book that you and Alex both recommended to me, The Ender's Game, and so I'm rolling through. Rolling through a couple different books. I enjoy that. I've done a couple home projects with both at my place and then at family members. So it's been, like I said, the home project game is
Renaissance.
I feel like
man.
at an all-time. Everyone's at an all-time high on that. So we'll skip past that and then we'll hit the. We'll talk about the Texas reopening.
Well,
just a quick roll through on this.
It is, yeah. Alex's birthday, man.
Yeah, the fifth member.
Shit. Shout out
Happy
Alex.
birthday, Alex.
Happy birthday, dude.
Alex will understand this. Silver for life, Alex. I'm silver for life. He's the only one that'll understand that.
Damn it, Johnny.
Cool. All right. Texas reopening, retail stores, restaurants, movie theaters, and the mall. They will be allowed to operate at 25% capacity as of May 1st. Museums and libraries will also be allowed to operate at 25% capacity. The second phase could come in as soon as May 18th. To 50% if no flare-up, and then the new order supersedes all local orders, and then the rural areas with less than 6 current cases or less than 6 cases total can skip to second phase immediately as of May 1st. So those are the basic facts. We'll see how.
Serious question.
Yeah.
What have they given a definition for what a flare-up is?
That is a good question. I looked this up for about an hour and a half. The best thing I've seen is like experts on Twitter is an increase in the bell curve. Is that's the phrase that like a dramatic increase in the bell curve is what would change that.
Like a 10% jump or something.
That's a good question because what the word dramatic means.
So
is I would think hundreds is enough to me per city, and then 1,000, like 1,000, I would assume in Texas would be enough. But it's an interesting
cases.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean that's because it's super interesting. We can bounce around the horn on that, but like how many rural towns are actually having tests to prove if like a COVID
Very few in Texas.
No,
so that's
not a lot.
Yeah.
So I guess it seems at the moment that next week you'll be able to go buy, discount clothing and things like that. But I don't think strip clubs are operating yet.
No
I don't.
Clubs,
what the hell?
No bars.
I don't think you'll. I also don't. bars are excluded from that.
Yeah, no gyms. that
No-
was the
no
one
gy-
thing.
no
that
gyms.
Barbershops, still waiting on
gyms,
haircuts.
gyms, and barbershops are the
Yeah.
two things that I would have sacrificed my health most likely to be able to get to those two things. If I could have gotten a weight in my hand, a basketball in my hand, and gotten my hair cut, I
6
think
foot
I
away
think,
lap dances.
I think that
No.
that's. I mean, all right. That's
Johnny will keep us posted on how
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one
Let
goes.
us know. Let us know, Johnny.
I'll do some research.
Strip
But
club
yeah, like
correspondent.
we'll have some lighter commentary on this. But what are some of your guys' original thoughts whenever you guys heard this, both good and bad?
Well, hell, I'll start it off,
There-
man. I
there
think
you
you know,
Sean, what do you think?
I completely understand where people are coming from, getting a little impatient. Hell, to me, I mean, a hangover sounds good at this point. Shit, you know, I'd like to go to a bar and hang out with the guys, and you know, get back to our pub trivia dynasty that we have going
Shout
on.
out to airdrop your nudes.
But I get it. I totally get it. But I think the big question is how are we going to go about it? What's the safest way to do it? What is going to be interesting is, you know, if things start to open up this Friday, right? They're saying as early as this Friday.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, we had some bad news in the family where a family member, a nephew of mine, he just got tested for COVID. But the results don't come back for a week.
It's like
So-
it's like 6 days or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah,
I thought there was like a 15-minute test.
I
thought this
that's
was
what we thought too.
2020,
This is coming.
That's weird.
This is
Yeah.
So
What are they're asked basically? I'm assuming to quarantine until
Yeah.
said
the
results
whole
come in.
the whole household is being quarantined. And so, you know,
That's a
we're not
long
going to
time.
get it is, yeah,
Yeah.
and we're not going to get this information. You know, if people start saying, "Oh, it's Wednesday," or "It's been 4 days," and nothing, well, you know, let's wait till the results actually get
Yeah.
back. See
Yeah.
what they
We
say.
just can't, man. As eager. I mean, like, I can't talk about it like I'm the only one that's eager to. Everybody wants to get back to work. Everybody wants to get active again and stuff. But it's just like, as far as from the basketball side of things, you don't want to be that person that gets in the gym with a group of kids too early, because like right now, as things are, even if you've got your own gym, or even if you've got keys to a gym, nobody's going to post. Some guys are still doing it, which is another story altogether.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're in a gym with a large group of kids right now, it's like people are going to look at you like a damn leper, man. Like it's not safe, no matter how much people want to say that it is. And I mean, what's another week or two after however many it's been?
Yeah, I'll hit the other side of this a little bit. That you know, I in theory I don't disagree with you guys. I have, at least off of the amount of social media that I've been seeing and the general news around, that people are some impatience has just turned into disdain for the quarantine, but at least they follow the rules. But the majority of people have just turned into find a lake, find a house, and do the exact same things. And there's not a whole lot of quarantine. So it turns into, once people aren't socially distancing themselves, it really means all there is we're just shutting down our economy. So
It'll be the
I see.
opposite of toilet paper. The way the toilet paper happened, people are going to start just going. Once the bar's open, it's going to
Yeah,
go the other way.
yeah.
They're going to start going.
So it's I see both sides of this. I also think there has to be some level of, you know, we all are fortunate enough to hear to where if you miss a paycheck, that life isn't, you know, we're like, there's a lot of people that, you know, the majority of the people in this city, you know, live paycheck to paycheck. And so some of those people, desperation to get back to work. So there's always two sides of the coin. And I think that we can have conversations of both ways, the good and the bad on that. Johnny, what's your
I'll
first
just-
thought on this?
Well, a little bit of a surprising thing. Like people probably think I'm just right leaning and all this stuff, but I was listening to
That's
correct.
That's true.
I was
Yeah.
listening to NPR today, which no conservative would ever do, but I try to get both sides. And Nuremberg was having
because
Central.
NPR is just such a bastion of leftness.
Oh, it's
Come on,
the
John.
most liberal.
No, it
thing
is
I've ever-
not.
NPR.
NPR is not even left leaning.
It's
Are
middle
y'all-
left.
are
It's
y'all
middle
on-
left.
It's gone left because Trump's so far right. I'm sorry.
y'all
Go
on-
ahead.
Johnny, continue, please,
y'all
with
on-
your radical
Before
NPR.
Trump,
My
NPR
Lord.
was not
Yeah.
that.
Continue.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So listen to NPR, and basically Nuremberg he was answering calls, and so I'm listening to it, and then finally one guy came on, and the guy that came on basically said, he goes, look, I disagree with you, and I was very surprised that they even allowed someone with a differing opinion of what they were saying, and he just said, look, San Antonio's 2 million people. There's under 2,000 cases that we know of. We all know there's more than that because there's people that don't have symptoms, and 50 people have died. So his 0.0% mortality rate for San Antonio is based on those numbers. And then Nuremberg answered the question. The guy said, well, do you think you went too far? And Nuremberg basically said, look, the scientists and what we're getting from, Fauci and everybody else says this is the course of action we should have taken. Most states have. And so I just was happy to actually have someone actually bring it up. And he answered it. He wasn't in there, and I didn't totally disagree with everything he's saying. My whole time, the entire time, I think the mortality rate of this has always been much low. More people have had it. And I think we went really far overboard in the name of saving lives. And if you're going to do that, then we should outlaw tobacco and we should outlaw alcohol. Those are preventable deaths that you can take care of. You don't have to worry about a virus or anything. You
Johnny,
can actually go and make people stop smoking tobacco.
If you want
as I have a
want
cigar.
my alcohol, you're gonna have to pry it from my cold dead hands.
It's my right.
It is my right, sir. It is my right.
So the Fifth Amendment
I don't
is
care how many
whatever
people
one
it
it
kills.
is. I'm just saying, if we're going to worry that much, let's get out of Iraq. Let's not have people in wars. Let's not do these things. If now all of a sudden we're like, shut the whole country down to save however many lives.
That's the thing, though, is that it's different. It's different with a
Yeah.
virus. So it's not that a drunk driver can't kill somebody that's innocent, or that secondhand smoke doesn't kill
About
people or
40,000
whatever.
a year.
Yeah, sure. But what I'm saying is that you can't, with a pandemic, you can't say that, okay, well, this is the narrative that's been pushed is like, well, if you're scared, then stay home. Or if you're healthy, like we should be able to go out and do what we want. It's like, well, number one, learn how fucking viruses work. Number two, the Texas Workforce Commission has said, I think yesterday, that if your place of work reopens and you do not, if you don't
want to go.
basically,
you don't
no,
have to.
no, they said the opposite of that.
Oh,
if
shoot.
you don't want to go back, and if whether you don't feel comfortable or whatever, if you don't want to go back, even while
Is that a fireable offense?
Yeah, no,
Wow.
that it said that you are not, you cannot, you can't get unemployment for that.
unemployment.
You cannot claim unemployment for that.
That's tough.
So it's like to say, well, if you don't feel comfortable during a pandemic, you must go to work and you must risk infection and or infecting your family members. And it's like, what if you've got to care for somebody at home? What if your kids are going to school or going and interacting with
Yeah.
people? And it's like,
Which is the most at risk.
I'm still big
population.
on.
it's like, give me a break, man.
I wish we had something, and I know it's difficult. I've mentioned it before. If you want to do these things, and if you're going to take these risks, sign a waiver. You will not go to the hospital. You'll pay for it out of your pocket. You're not going to the hospital.
If
If I
only.
sign the waiver,
Yeah.
right, and I want to go to a club or whatever it is, go to a bar and hang out.
It can never be done because that's like basically an
know,
admission of
but-
risk. It's like the admission of guilt when you say like, why would you have to sign a waiver? Because we understand there's an inherent risk in you doing this, and that's
yeah.
a
I know.
smoking gun.
I'm just saying that. So it wouldn't
I struggle with that.
overwhelm
I'd like
the
for you to
medical
defend this a little bit. Like I hate that idea because other things kill you that we shouldn't worry about this. Like I think that's a straw man's like so you're telling me if like we could spend some money and protect people, and that, what does that have anything to do with tobacco?
Okay, so if you look at
Like I'd like for you to defend how those things are
Well, let me-
actually
okay,
connected.
let me put it this way. So if you looked at the top 10 preventable causes of death, right? Number one would be obesity because of heart attacks. Number two would be tobacco, I think. Alcohol's up there. And then another one is medical malpractice. You go to the hospital and you
Those
like
are
100,000
so
people.
those are controllable, right?
So now imagine though at the beginning of the year, right? And there's this,
But we
the new-
spend a
the-
lot of money trying to combat that. Like the amount of
True.
tobacco that's gone way down
Yeah,
in
no,
30 years.
yeah.
And and I mean there's we put a lot of money into those things.
But just imagine if the media and government treated it the way they treated this. That at the beginning of the month, starting next year, they said, holy crap, 4,000 people have died related to this. And it would be a lot more than 4,000. And in 8 years, over
But
3
can't you
million
see why it's
Americans are going to
different?
die. I can see why it's different if I thought the mortality rate, if I thought this thing was as lethal as they're saying, right? I would agree
it's-
with y'all.
Technically, it's more lethal than the Vietnam War so far.
Yes, but it's not how much more. So when they say this thing was 40 times more deadly than other similar like infections, okay, that means it went from 99.7 to 99.1. So if they had labeled it that way, how many Americans would have freaked out? It's all rhetoric. It's propaganda. It's a way
Johnny,
to make things sound scarier
this
than
is what's
it is.
interesting to me. If there was no lockdown, so like theoretically speaking, no
Right.
lockdown, no
If
social
we had done
distancing,
nothing,
if we had done nothing, what does the death toll look like? So if it's
I
at
think-
60 plus
I
thousand
think
now,
double.
what's it?
I think maybe
okay.
double, maybe double.
Well, and that's the problem
Is that worth is
Yeah,
that is that
exactly.
worth
Okay.
a 401k? I don't know.
How many people's lives are
I'm
going to be
with you,
ruined?
JJ.
How many business closed? 26 million unemployed. 4 million can't pay their mortgage. At what point does it become so destructive? Now look, if I
Freeze mortgages, it's easy.
I think those are actually good solutions, and they actually finally got smart and said freeze 3 months and
but
tack
can
it
you
on the end.
can you understand
not
how
pay
can
in
you
3 months.
understand who someone who like lost a grandmother because of this, and how like loss of
It's-
life, like how this affects them because this wasn't handled properly originally,
Yeah.
how that would seem so
It's a bit
so small
it's
in
a bit
comparison.
it's a bit
that-
different to talk about thinning the herd if somebody that you know, somebody
Right.
that you love, or
Right,
is a part of that herd that's been thinned.
Well,
So
but you're-
it's a bit different.
You're talking to a guy who from the beginning never believed it was as bad as it was from the beginning. And I traveled across the country, and I went anywhere, and I flew on airplanes. I walked the walk. I didn't go sit in my house and not do anything. But my argument would be this: I watched after 9/11, right? We had a bunch of lies and propaganda get us into a war that cost 200,000 Iraqis' lives, has caused multiple terrorists. Why wasn't the government worried about those lives so much? And we had the biggest protest in world history before we went into Iraq, and the government said, "We don't give a crap." Now you believe those guys like 100%. Y'all are on that side. I just am very cynical when it comes to what the government tells me from what I've experienced. In my life.
So this is where this is. I mean, I just think like you can throw those out, and I don't think we disagree with that part of it. But those we're not by doing this, we're not costing anyone's lives. By doing that quarantine, we're just costing dollars.
Well, and
That-
also
you know what I'm saying? Like that's I feel like those are
There's-
we're two. It's apples and oranges.
there's also
It is.
it is because mostly on account of that there's no fighting a war against corona doesn't deliver any oil. In fact, it does the opposite.
well,
that
unless
makes oil.
unless
in
you're
no
fa-
longer profitable.
In fact, it nosedives the value of
wait,
oil.
now
so-
wait a minute. Unless you're the company and they come out with a vaccine that 7 billion people have to take, how much money is going to be made off that? And who's going to make that money? Is it Bill Gates that has part of that? Is it Dr. Fauci who's associated with Gates? You're saying there's no money. They describe it as a war zone in New York hospitals. I mean, they're describing it as a war.
I was like hanging back, waiting to hear if Johnny said the name George Soros, and then I was the whole podcast was gonna be derailed, and I was just gonna flip the table. But
Wait,
he
you like
did,
Soros?
no, but
Okay.
I didn't want the conversation to go there.
His name hasn't been mentioned on any of this much, honestly.
No, thankfully, because Jesus. Anyways,
Let's get out of the mud per se. We talked a little bit more about the deep dives.
Indeed.
Let's just talk about some of the practicalities. Like I know I'm going to like personally in my own my brother's birthday is Saturday. I'm gonna go celebrate that. Then I'm not gonna see them for the next 3 weeks. Like I think
When's the river opening up?
I don't know. I won't go. I am not gonna be part of this first crew
It's
of
already
people
open,
going out
so-
and doing stuff. So what
Yeah.
what are y'all's practical like first weekend? This is all open. We already know Johnny's answer, but like, are you guys going out and trusting on this? Because I'm not.
I'm hanging back in the bushes, and I'm gonna see what happens to the
Yeah.
first wave.
Agreed.
And then go from there. But I mean, it's just honestly, this sounds really nerdy, by the way. Shout out to our trivia teammates. But Sean and I do this like when I'm home, like we're going probably minimum 2 or 3 times a week to play bar trivia. It's like we really love that. Just
Yeah.
going out, having a few with the guys, playing trivia. That's like a huge nerd hobby of ours. And it's, as much as I want to go do that, they could the very first weekend they could say, "Hey, this is $1,000 prize if you win." And I'm not going to go do that at the moment.
Yeah.
It's just to me, man. If it's in a month, maybe so, but to rush things open, I couldn't do it.
I think to me it's really easy to sit here and sit in the position where I'm lucky enough that my paychecks keep coming
Right.
in, and so it's an easy decision for me. I'm not like I'm fine. There's a little bit of inconveniences, so I can't get away from the house and go sit down in a restaurant and have a meal. Maybe I'll be able to do that now, but it's if I can't, or if it's not real safe to do so, it's not a big deal to just continue to pick up food. Like it's not, to me, it's not that big. And I understand it's a different situation for everybody else. I don't see myself going out like week 1 or anything like that. Might catch a UFC fight with some friends or something. But outside of that, I don't see myself.
We're taking temperatures at the door, man.
I don't mind. I mean, basically, I would
Did you
go to bars to watch sports.
Did
So
you
it's not
see
like that's
that-
gonna be there?
did you see that Amazon bought a ton of those it's actually from China, but they bought a ton of those scanners. They can actually scan body temp.
I don't have a problem with that idea.
It's
by
it's
the way,
it's
that's a legitimate
How-
good
well,
idea.
the
You're supposed to
issue
use
with-
them,
how-
right?
how
Yeah,
conven-
for
how con-
restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
How convenient for them.
correct. Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of problems with like the fact that could give China surveillance, and there is a lot of I won't go into the
bugging them.
I won't go into the weeds on that, but it is like that I don't love, but the fact that there's technology that you could have a temperature, you could have something where there's temperature gauging, and those that don't have healthy
They
temperatures
just
aren't.
read it off your forehead, right? Like they just
Yeah.
like.
Well, there's a couple
Yeah,
different
yeah.
ways of doing it, but
Yeah,
then
it's
and then
forehead.
off of
Okay.
this is like,
Rectal.
why not? Why
Sir, come around the corner here, please.
why would good restaurants and nice places not already do that? How much more would you like to go to a place and know that all the people there are healthy?
Like, hey, well, it's
You
just
need
like,
to read 1984.
well, just tell them like, hey, man, do you have a fever? No. All right, sit 4 tables apart from those people over there. That's where you're sitting.
I mean, something I think
They're going to
that
be a
some of the
fever room, like the
technology of
smoking
that.
room.
No, like if you're sick and you're not like if there was a simple technology, like I love technology. If there's a simple technology for it, wouldn't you like that? If it's a basic scanner of like, hey, this
What a-
person is
What a letdown! What a letdown the 21st century is, right?
Yeah,
like it's the
no.
year 2020, and I feel like as a kid, you
when all
think,
the futuristic movies were
yeah,
like,
all these
set in-
futuristic
yeah.
movies, like you mean it's 2020 and there's not a scanner that can tell me
Yeah.
everything?
Yeah, no
We're-
flying cars.
We're
Yeah.
past Back
Yeah.
to the Future. When
Yeah.
they were already in the
Yeah.
future. We're past that.
Yeah.
We have Elon Musk. That's our.
Yeah, next.
But let's go on to our weekly MJ documentary series that those that watched and those that didn't. The main people in that they were talking about Dennis Rodman and Phil, and then they talked about MJ's first title and how emotional that was, and kind of that part. So Sean, what were your initial thoughts from the doc from these episode 3 and 4, and
All right. Love the take on Phil Jackson, man. Just
Phil's the man.
so many cool things in this doc, like watching Rodman walk through the arena drinking a beer. That was cool. F-bombs being thrown around in the post game. Mentioning Phil Jackson's use of acid was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
But one of the coolest things to me that I really liked that I found was interesting is the back and forth between Jordan and Isaiah, man. Like I love just as a competitor, as a sports guy, as a coach, like I love that Jordan still fucking hates.
Yeah,
Isaiah.
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Isaiah
That's so cool.
It's
That
awesome.
documentary did a great job. I love every time they
That-
have
dude,
the guy on
That's
the
a- that's a
listening
new
to
feature,
the interview.
right? Yeah,
I've never
that's-
seen it
I've never
before.
seen it in any other thing, and they're watching the
So
interview.
Johnny, like I know you don't ever watch any of this stuff. So Michael's basically listening
He's
to
in a
Isaiah
bunker.
Thomas talk about it, and Michael's like, I don't give a shit what this guy says. He's still an asshole. Like he says this like modern day. He says,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, man, this is awesome. Like
He was
I love
he
this.
was like,
and-
yeah, he says
Hey,
it now after the
Durant
public.
would get blown up for saying, Durant gets totally criticized for being sensitive. I mean, but
Well, I mean,
look-
he gets criticized for having burner accounts on Twitter also.
yeah, imagine Jordan having Twitter at that time.
Oh,
Holy
jeez.
crap, man.
I
I
don't
wish
think Jordan
that,
has a Twitter.
I wish
Phil
Isaiah.
Jackson, yeah.
I wish Isaiah would just kind of own it though. Isaiah's trying to have like he's trying
Nice
to have
guy, yep.
like the real politically correct response. Oh,
Did
back
y'all
in
see
the
Bill
day-
Lambier respond?
What did he say?
He's not politically correct.
Lambier was like, yeah, I still believe in it. Like F those guys. Those guys were like
Dude,
they
own it, right?
Yeah,
Like, don't be
he
ashamed.
completely owned it. He was like, man, those guys are crybabies. They acted like just because we played hard that we were bad people. They didn't know us. F them. Like it's basically what he said.
Horace Grant had my favorite moment, and it's
He
like
was
the dude's
awesome.
rocking like he's rocking an NBA Cares shirt, and he's like, "What's your opinion of them?" He's like, "Straight up bitches."
Yep,
man."
that was-
straight up.
that was
bitches for
hilarious.
I think it's cool because like coming like just coaching these kids nowadays, man. You try to get them fired
Oh,
up, right?
jeez.
And it's like
Yeah.
they end up playing against the guy on the other end of the court is like on their MySpace top 8 and shit.
Yeah.
It's like I love that old school basketball where like you don't need an excuse. Like I fucking hate the guy I'm
Did,
playing
did
against.
y'all
Yeah.
did y'all bring this up, or I can't remember if it was on the last one where Danny Ainge and Jordan were?
That's what I was
were
about to say,
playing?
because that's what I wanted
were
to go the
playing
opposite
golf.
of Sean. Like that's the thing. Like these old school guys shit on the current players for being
Oh,
friends.
Always.
And during the finals,
Yeah,
Danny
they
Ainge
play
and Jordan
golf.
play golf. Like I don't want to hear the fact that these guys are friends. Like it's so shameless, and I love being against Sean too. So that's great.
That wasn't. I agree 100%. That was first round though, right?
Yes, it was in a
Okay,
playoff.
okay,
Sorry,
yeah, yeah.
playoff series, not a finals.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, they're
That's-
playing golf in between game 1 and game 2. I'm like, I don't want to hear how all these guys hate each other. That's
Yeah.
So
But
go ahead.
it seemed though on the court like they did more to me. Like it's weird. I don't know why, because there was more fights back then, and they cleaned the NBA up, and you just basically can't really fight anymore. It just seemed like they were in the foul. The
Well, NBA is
flagrant-
more
flagrant-
commercialized
well,
now.
yeah,
The guys
flagrant
all are
fouls are
individual
different.
companies, and they
Yeah,
understand that,
yeah.
and they're more sharper and more savvy about that. And a fight could hurt a couple of their advertising
Dude,
dollars,
we
and
need
so
a
they're
new,
just
we need a new
more
bad
savvy
guy.
in that way.
We need a new bad guy. A guy that says, I don't care if I get a 10-game suspension. I'm going to lay someone out. That's going to maybe get him the Allen Iverson, the Barkley
Draymond Green's the
sponsors.
modern day bad guy, man.
Yeah, he kind of is.
He's got
yeah.
that a little bit.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't. Draymond's good at that.
Punch LeBron.
My hot take is,
Oh my God, I'm ready for this.
Is-
I'm ready to go in.
I know, and we're gonna disagree, but Dennis Rodman's boring. Dennis Rodman's just not that cool.
Said only one person
It's-
ever, folks, and he's sitting directly to my left.
There's nothing new came from that documentary that I hadn't heard of. Like the coolest thing by far in him is the women that he was with. Like respect there. But Dennis Rodman was just a hick until he met Madonna, and then Madonna was like, "Hey,
she turned him.
why don't you take advantage of all this and become a character?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, so this is a fake character to get attention.
Why don't you
Perfect. That's
become
what I
gay?"
expected."
Dennis Rodman's like, yes, I'll try gay
Well,
for you,
see,
Madonna. I'll
He
try
is.
it.
You're
He
talking.
is. I was.
How
That
is that
episode
not-
4 was the worst.
How is he not interested? You're talking
Yeah.
about
the
a guy.
that met with Kim Jong Un.
Yeah,
is
come on.
No, hey, I'm saying like
It's not about him. I didn't enjoy that episode.
What? Hey, what is it like?
If it went over his meetings in North Korea, I'd be more interested. But
dude,
like it was story after every other story. Like I didn't know things about Scott. I didn't know things about MJ. Phil Jackson is a G. Like
yeah, but check it out, man. If you're not, I mean, you won't deny how important he was to the Bulls team, but it's
No.
just like, to me, a story of Michael Jordan himself. Like this is, I mean, like people say in the documentary the whole time, like if there's anything like similar to the concept of God at that time, like it's Michael Jordan. When during the middle of the season, when his ass shows up to your hotel room in Vegas to bring you back to the team, like you've got Carmen Electra in bed and everything, you're strung out, been on a bender for like the last 5 days.
Carmen Electra still looks great. By the way.
Yeah, she
Very
does. Shout out Carmen. But yeah, when Michael Jordan turns up to your Las Vegas hotel room to bring you back, that's a story, man. That's an interesting thing. And I
Yeah,
mean,
but we've all heard it. Like,
Sure.
It's still. I'm just saying, like, there's not a whole lot of depth.
All right,
it's
well,
the exact same.
if not,
because I think he's a great player. I think there's like, but all of his stories I've heard since I was 10.
All right, well, if a such a great
Not
legendary
interesting is not the
player
way.
almost commits suicide at the Pistons practice facility, if that's not interesting to you, Dustin, then
It's
I mean,
not.
you're
I've already
just-
heard
you-
it. I'm
you've
not,
just-
I'm not interested in
Wait,
Robin.
hey, Dustin is a product of the modern time,
Wait,
the
wait,
modern era. He's numb.
Yeah.
We get so much information. He's just numb to cool. Like he's numb to.
I'm
to
not. I love
interesting
the rest of
stories.
them. Phil Jackson is Phil. I was enamored by the Phil Jackson story. Like that was maybe my favorite
He
one.
was on some hippie shit.
He was.
man. I really
He was
really
cool
enjoyed
as
that.
hell. Like I
enjoyed
wrote
it.
down a ton of stuff with him. Like him calling the Rodman the Hilka the backwards walking person.
Yeah, oh man, that's
like
cool.
that was completely legit. Like his ability to work with these different types of personalities. But the Rodman stuff, I was like, okay, there was nothing that I didn't learn anything I hadn't already known about Rodman.
Did you know
is my
that?
point.
Did you know he averaged like 29 points a game in college?
Yeah,
You done that?
he was.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a
Kinda
star.
interesting to go from that
his team,
to a
his,
role player,
his
the
team's
best role
mascot
player.
was the Savages. I love that.
That is a good.
That was
Well,
really cool.
In the Pistons, he tried to do a little bit of everything. With the Bulls, he really decided like this is what I do. I rebound.
Yeah.
My brother and I were looking up, and I forget the number. But he had like 40 something games of 20 rebounds and 0 points in his
Shit.
career.
Well, no, and he's got over 100. I think over 150 games with 20 plus rebounds, and the next closest person to him
yeah.
is not even to 100.
That was the most interesting
he's
thing
behind,
about.
he's behind Wilt. Wilt
No,
averaged 20,
no.
Wilt averaged 25
Check it
rebounds a game one year.
We'll have to check it out.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe it's modern
They-
basketball.
they-
Yeah.
We're talking about
I know.
where the opponents aren't
I
5'11"
know.
white guys.
Whenever
but-
they say these stats like that, there's literally in the NBA to be like after
They'll
Wilt.
cut
It's like
off. Yeah,
after
yeah.
Wilt this stuff because he literally averaged 50 and 25 one season.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that there's this thing that Dennis Rodman would just destroy LeBron? It's been
saw
peddled
that.
this week.
I saw
It's
that.
been peddled. It
Who
really
said that?
that was part of my. It was peddled like it was retweeted. There was a bunch of stuff. There was a bunch of like I saw a YouTube video on it. There was a couple different people I saw. Now I give him no respect. Actually, I won't even mention the guy's name because I think he's the worst guy in media. He used to be on First Take.
Agreed.
Yeah. So
But that's the thing, though, is that I can't say that it's just old heads, but most of the time it's old heads. if people say Jordan's
defending him.
if people say Jordan's still the GOAT, like, okay, man, there's a huge part of the population that will believe that till they die, and he is
The majority
at
of the
moment.
population.
And Sean will fight that
The
too. but-
majority of the population. knows that MJ's
no, I'm saying like MJ's the GOAT, but there when a
In that
documentary
case,
like
it's probably right, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of cases where it's not.
no,
right,
but what
where
this
the old
what this
school
yeah what this
isn't-
but what something like this brings up is it's like, well, just because this guy from this era is the GOAT, that magically everyone that played during that time was somehow tougher and better, and
Right.
it's just like, dude,
No, that guy.
most pound for pound,
Yeah.
Rodman as good as he was he's not checking LeBron and
guys-
not checking most of the stars in the league today. Like, it's just not going to happen.
I think part of the reason that happens is because of the era it happened. So Bird and Magic took the NBA to a certain level, and then Jordan and the Bulls had to fight through some ridiculous teams to get where they were, right? And then they just hit the weight room and they did all these things. And it's like, I think, who's the guy that's pushing? I think the Spurs were pushing the NBA to a degree. Honestly, I think it was Duncan who did
Absolutely.
that next. So I think they look at that in the era between, like, after Jordan up to the Kobe kind of era and some of the bull crap that happened with them. And I know we're going to watch that game. I think that's why. I think they look at that, all that hype around the Dream Team, all those guys that were so good with that 1984 draft. I think that part is part of it.
Yeah.
I don't look
Yeah.
back. I don't look back at, like, I understand what
It's
Oscar
the
Robertson
It's the true
did.
founding fathers of the modern NBA. Is that
Yeah,
dream
and,
team.
Yeah.
I think that skews things a little bit, because I kind of agree. Whoever said, I think Durant, you put him back then, even though he's skinny, he would have been the George Gervin.
Well,
of
and
that
that's
era,
why
but at a
it's-
much higher
It
level.
just-
That's
destroys-
why it's so hard to, I think, to make these comparisons, like doing the founding fathers things. Like, yeah, the founding fathers probably wouldn't be as astute as Bernie Sanders is now. It doesn't mean they're not respected. You compare them to
Yeah.
their era.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that always makes the most sense. Like yeah, Larry Bird wasn't quite as good a 3-point shooter, but I was listening to a thing. He never practiced them. Imagine Larry Bird practicing threes and getting to shoot 6 of them a game. He probably would have.
Well, and that's
he
the-
probably would be leading the NBA in 3-point
Well,
percentage if he was playing this
Well,
game.
the
Like, it's
inher-
hard to
yeah,
compare.
the inherent qualities of those guys. So, like, legends from the 50s all the way up until now. It's like, if you were elite in your era, it's for a reason.
Right.
And it's like,
exactly.
if you put that type of those qualities into today's training and today's accessibility of the game, then yeah, they're probably also really good. But it's like, where I'm disconnected, I guess, from some of the older heads, is it's like, if you really love basketball, shouldn't you want the game to progress, and
Absolutely.
shouldn't you want the next generation? It's the same thing as, like, if you have a younger brother or sister, like,
and if it doesn't
you want
progress,
them
it's
to
your
be-
fault
yeah, and if
for not
and-
progressing it.
and
Yeah.
and if they're not better, then there's an issue.
Yeah.
But back to
I think Popovich would be mad at y'all, because Popovich is the guy that said, I hate the 3-point shot. He liked the old school ball. And I think what people are mad at is that it's this AAU ball where these inflated numbers and the D'Antoni's.
It's turned into a math equation.
I don't
and
think he
it's-
hates threes. I think he hates the I don't know, the clip that they're being shot at
Yeah.
today. But I mean, the
But
Spurs
analytics say
the Spurs made a bunch of threes over
Beautiful
those years,
basketball
but
was
the
shooting a bunch of
ball
threes.
the ball was moving a bit.
But this is what it
Yeah.
is, man. It's Skip, right? We're
gonna mention his name, thanks.
Okay, sorry.
That just helps him. It just helps him.
Worst ever. Shout out
He who
Skip
must
for
not
being
be named.
an
It's
idiot.
him. It's him overshooting a little bit. Like, let's give Rodman credit, man. If Rodman insert Rodman into today's game, you can't tell me that he's still not going to be a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year
He's gonna
every
be
single year.
hyper
This is a guy that averaged over 18 rebounds a game when there's less possessions than there are today.
and a
Like,
good
give the
passer.
guy credit. He can guard 1 through 5.
Yeah.
He can guard 1 through 5.
Oh, especially
Now to
today.
say that he's going to shut down LeBron, I'm not going to say he's going to. I wouldn't even go as far as saying he's going to beat him one-on-one.
He's not
probably
even the
gonna
guy
score.
guarding him.
Yeah, but you know,
Pippen's guarding him.
if it put it in the scenario, if he had to guard him, I'm not saying
No.
he locks down LeBron, but he sure as hell.
He's-
Guys, Boris Diaw,
I was about
Boris
good
Diaw
call. Good.
won a series
call.
when he matched up against LeBron. And
He put the business on.
Skip point is this: is that
No, but Kawhi Leonard guarded him for the
is
most
not-
part. Who would be the
LeBron
Scottie
is
Pippen of this
not a
situation.
he's not a talented scorer. He doesn't have all these moves in his bag like a Kyrie.
He beast
or-
mode you. He just
Yeah,
beast
he's
mode you.
strong. And are you going to body Rodman?
Dustin is
No.
fuming right
Is he
now.
going to body Rodman?
He's not a
Dustin
talented
is
scorer.
that-
fuming.
Dustin,
right
is he
now.
gonna
James
body
not a
Rodman?
talented
Yes, he
scorer.
would.
He's not.
He can body Rodman. He's like, I guess being smart, being savvy in the pick and roll isn't a talented scorer. I guess being able to have a post fadeaway isn't a talented scorer. I guess being able to create isolated
he ever crossed
mismatches isn't
someone
a
over?
creative
Has he ever
scorer.
crossed someone
Being
over?
able to score in transition, be able to
Right.
make open shots. I guess I'd have to reread what a
What's-
talented scorer
What was
is for
Malone?
LeBron.
Malone was 6'6".
And
10,
Malone-
two
dude,
what?
Malone
how
was a
heavy?
monster.
How heavy?
255 at least.
No, but I'm saying so.
Malone worked Rodman
LeBron's
too, by the
LeBron's
way.
maybe only 1 inch shorter, and he's heavier than Malone.
Yeah, he's probably 260.
and can
And
move
hyper-
maybe a little bit better than him.
and hyper athletic.
Yeah,
And
miss me with the fact that he can't
as much
score
as
the
we
ball.
appreciate Rodman's fight in those battles against Malone, not a person alive is saying, "Oh,
I think-
who won that matchup."
Well, no, I agree.
No one's saying that.
I agree with you. I think
When
I-
Rodman on this team is way more of a rebounder than a great defender. You can see his stats defensively by that time aren't great because he's always leaving his guy to go get the rebound.
Well,
he
his
is a
lateral-
rebound
I
chaser.
love
chaser.
seeing him
Is
get
great.
tip dunks though.
Yeah,
That's my favorite
No,
thing.
he's fun.
That's why out of the in-game stuff, it's like people are just. I mean, you're right to be in a trance watching Jordan shoot pull-ups and stuff. And to
all
see him
Rodman's
float in
doing
the
is
air.
waiting for
My
rebounds.
favorite shit is just watching Rodman fight people and then get tip dunks. I just love
the
it.
game we watched, I thought it was really interesting a couple times. Like Rodman's so nuanced. Like rebounding, I won't argue this. Like I just hated how people like to use this to shit on LeBron. But Rodman's a rebounding. Just I saw a couple times while MJ hasn't even released yet. Rodman's relocating under the rim to the help side because he knows the percentage
and
chance the
putting a
angle.
body on him.
And he gets a body and he deflects it and he knows the spot on the court where he should deflect it to and go get it. He's he is
You remember the battle they showed between it was when Chuck was with the Sixers, I think. And
Yeah.
it shows him
just
him
tip,
tip, and then Chuck's like laughing whenever Rodman gets the advantage because it's like, dude, he doesn't stop.
He is his ability to rebound is incredible. I just hate how everything turns into crap on the modern player. Like it was my point on that. I'm not trying to shit
but
on
that's-
Rodman.
I'm not totally disagreeing with that too. I think there's a reason, and that's part of it. I mean, it's just because of the air and when it
like the
happened.
2017 Cavs are going to beat the Bulls because they are all on modern day health plans and they're all lift weights and they
You
don't.
think the 2017
I'm
Cavs are
saying
beating the
the
Bulls?
modern basketball teams are beating that team.
Facts.
I
mean,
don't think so.
Hey,
What was
to-
their what was the Cavs thinking about LeBron and all his offensive skill that we're talking about here? What happened in that 2017 offensive end on the Cavs for the finals? What did they end up doing? It was LeBron, here's your ISO, Kyrie, here's your ISO. LeBron, here's your ISO.
Kevin Love hit a three.
Here's your ISO, Kyrie. That's
Beat
all.
up-
That's
beat
all it
the
was.
greatest regular season team of all time. So
It's better
With the
than-
Draymond,
Hey,
with
but
the Draymond being ejected.
to avoid
game.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
One
Asterisk mark. Well, I got I think I know who your favorite coach is. That's a modern NBA coach right now, and I think you'll agree with me after your love of Phil Jackson.
everyone knows my favorite coach.
No, go ahead, say it because I
Tex
might
Winter?
change
you
your
can
mind.
you can go.
Is it
no,
Tex
no, no,
Winter?
no. Who's your favorite coach? I'm going to change your mind.
Brad Stevens, man.
Nick Nurse.
I like Nick
That
Nurse,
is-
but it won't probably.
That is Phil
Brad
Jackson.
Stevens is my favorite.
That's Phil Jackson reincarnated. His path.
I don't think
everything
Phil
about him.
Jackson was
He's
the
like-
best coach at that time. He's the
Hey.
perfect coach for that team. That was.
Go look into Nick Nurse a little bit.
I love Nick Nurse.
Uh,
I read all I steal all their plays.
Hey,
I don't try and do
speaking-
my own plays anymore. I just steal. Nick Nurse is awesome. He's top 5 for me.
He
but-
ran a one in a box and
awesome.
one. He ran a box and one.
Amazing.
Give
He
Brad
basically almost won a
give
game
Brad
with it.
Stevens Kawhi and see
Nah,
what happens.
They should have him, and we
Brad
should have
Stevens.
three Celtics
Brad
right now.
Stevens almost
should
got
have
to
had
the
him.
finals against LeBron. They took him to a game 7 with basically guys that are 3 years and younger. They got to an Eastern Conference Finals, man. Like that's a
Kawhi
huge
should have been
accomplishment.
there. That would have been the
Hey,
year too, right?
Speaking of great coaches, back to the Phil focus.
Yeah,
This guy, I mean,
good recentering of the ball.
Yeah, we've
Got
got
to rotate it back.
we've got no, but naturally there's a basketball emphasis here, and I don't know, maybe I have some bias, I don't know, but is there you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that has a more that's lived a more interesting life than Phil Jackson, because
It's him
You're-
and
you're-
Steve Kerr, probably the two most interesting basketball coaches. Wouldn't you argue? Those two and Pop.
I think Phil Jackson dwarfs them all, because it's like you have this 6'10", the 6'10" white dude from North Dakota, mind you. Like he's from the town I played at a D1 JUCO in Williston, North Dakota. It's a small place. I don't know, I'll leave it at that. He's from Williston, North Dakota. His family photos look like they're from World War I or something. And
Yeah.
it's like this guy went on to become like a huge hippie.
Yeah.
Talks about he dropped acid and stuff. Coached in the Puerto Rican League. Coached in the damn
Played for the Knicks.
CBA. Played for the Knicks.
CBA,
Won 2 titles.
Mhm.
And it's like, not to mention, it was called the Zen Master. And it's
Yeah.
like you're talking about an NBA coach that's at the top of his craft, and he's also a noted
Yeah,
Buddhist,
he's a cool dude.
and he's into Native American culture.
Yep. No, I mean, I
Cool
can't
dude.
I can't
I
argue.
Read his book.
Also
It's a good
watching,
book.
that's a great book. Well, actually, he's got like 3 now. But yeah,
I read the first one. I
they're
remember
all
that.
they're all good.
I need to read the post Kobe ones. the after Kobe
The
ones.
speaking of coaches and like the documentary, you know, you could tell there was a little bit of the big Buddha. He was a little shady and capitalistic on that head coaching job. You could tell there was some.
Oh man,
You could tell that Collins was
Doug
like
Collins
being
is-
very
oh.
respectful, and but he was like when he made the comments like, yeah, pretty early in the year I knew Phil could probably be the head coach. It was like I knew something, and him.
Doug Collins is like I've not met him, but dude, he seems like such a nice, like genuine person, like a likable guy.
Did
and
you
had
see
the best
cut
haircut.
he had?
Oh man,
And the necklace with the like he had some
Oh,
swagger as a coach, man. He's like
he
top
was-
5 swagger coaches.
he was Vice City'd out, man. Like that haircut was legit too.
Doug Collins
Jordan
post-game-
co-signed for him.
Jordan loved him. Doug Collins post game fit or Sean quarantine wife beater.
Oh shit. Yeah,
Which
I don't
one's-
know, man.
Which one's tougher?
That's the thing though, is that Sean, I mean now it's quarantine, so it doesn't count. But,
Yeah.
like if you talk about post game Sean,
It's
like
pretty-
that's GQ. Like that's like
Yeah, he's
that's
versatile.
Banana Republic
He's
Express,
versatile.
and even nicer. Like he's threaded out. So it's a close one. We ought to
now
put that on
he's like
a
now he's like a
graphic.
lumberjack,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Like he's like a lumberjack in
Yeah,
training
now-
right now in the
yeah.
quarantine.
Haterade.
I love these
Yeah.
guys. I love these
You
guys.
gotta take- it's time off, you know.
Just always sharpening the sword.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's kind of go on to the Reggie portion of this, and then we can kind of.
Miller.
I think Reggie will circle back with MJ a little bit, but you know, we talked a little bit off air about Reggie, and you know, he had one of the more interesting careers that it was hard to compare. He's a Hall of Famer, 5-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA. He made it to the NBA Finals once, lost to the 2000-2001 LA Lakers. 18 points a game, 3 rebounds a game, 3 assists. Was looking up his All-Star years. Pretty impressive that he was able to in 3 different decades. 89, he made an All-Star team. 94, 95, 95, 96, 97, 98, and then he made it all the way into 2000. So he hit 3 different eras. So I mean, obviously that works out time-wise. It's still 12 years of All-Stars, but
Duncan,
a
was
12-year
the other
stretch
one?
of
Duncan did
yeah,
that too.
I think yeah. So he's in rare company there. So I'll just I was reading off his basic stats. What are some of y'all's thoughts on Reggie and Johnny? We'll start off with you on this time because this was the most in your era.
I actually I think we talked about the all-time, you know, 2-guard, and I watched just a video talking about him. But the thing that really stuck out for me, and you kind of got to fudge just a little bit, but for a career as long as he was, and I know we talk about the eras of defense, but his era was 89 to the brawl in the Palace, which was considered almost considered the era of beat the crap out of people. That, you know, like it was before the rules got changed, basically. So he was doing this in the era. His career free throw percentage, 88.8888. Okay, so basically 90%.
Say 89.
2 point.
I
2
believe in
point.
rounding up on this podcast.
Well, I'll round down to make my point. So 2 point is 0.516. So let's make that 50. And
Okay.
3 point is 0.395. So he's basically
he's a 50, 40, 90 guy.
yeah, a career 50. How many are
That's
those?
rare. Steve Nash. That's Steph Curry. And then there's
I'm
a
sorry.
couple. There's a couple other guys that.
Did
are
we?
I think it's like a 5-person list.
What is his field goal
Peja.
percentage again?
51.
Hold on.
Surprised me.
Can we fact check this?
Yeah, it was on. I got
Well,
it
I mean,
on
it's
NBA
not.
Reference.
He's not a 50, 40, 90 guy because 88 doesn't count. So he
And-
wouldn't be in the category. But
no,
he's,
but I'm
he's very
talking about
close.
field goal percentage.
Yeah, it's pretty
His
impressive.
2
50.
point- his
I'm gonna
2-point field
have
goal
to trust him, and then
percentage
we'll go on the
Okay.
we'll go on the thing,
Okay.
and we'll tell people if Johnny's lying. He's been
I
So,
wanna
he
find
will
that out.
believe information from
So-
untrustworthy
And he average,
sites.
I mean, his career average was like
Yeah.
pretty good
It's
career
tough.
average.
Yeah, it's tough.
So he's one of the guys, though, too, that the thing that surprised me for being as skinny as he was during that era, 1 year he averaged 7.5 free throws per game. And we talk about these stars, and then there's the guys, the Hardens, the people that I don't necessarily like in this new era, get in the playoffs and their numbers go down. Reggie Miller, every year his numbers went up. Like he would get the playoffs, and now he didn't have a ton of success, but is that him or his team? He did the best when he got some good coaching. He got Larry Bird in as the coach in those 2
Larry
years.
Bird,
They
Larry
did-
Brown.
They did very well. And then the thing that really sucks for him, and I'll kind of end on this. So the year that they had the brawl, okay, Ron Artest was Defensive Player of the Year, and he didn't finish out the year, and they didn't have him in the playoffs. You have him in the playoffs. That was a year they could have beat the Pistons and possibly won the whole thing. I mean, they'd end up playing who? The Spurs?
Can't fight people in the crowd.
Yeah.
The Pacers in the playoffs.
Reggie should have stopped him.
Yeah. So that just kind of is one of those things that sucks. It's the basketball gods. You know, we didn't really get to see what really was going to happen. Would they have won it that year? I don't know for sure, but they could have definitely made it that year. But
My thought with him is that I don't know how you categorize this, but I feel like he's like all-time great on achieved the most he possibly could have out of what he had.
It's a good way to put
Like to me, like that's what I would want to put in front of like Reggie Miller. Like that's what I am so impressed by. Like this guy is looking guys like Mike eye to eye. In what measurable way does he match up with these greats? You guys tell me. His shot's a little weird. You know, he's got like he wasn't better than his sister for most of his life. Like he's got.
Speaking of which, is there a more accomplished like brother sister or even brother duo?
I don't.
In
I mean,
the,
she's the
no,
goat.
No,
she's the goat.
She's the
in my
women's goat
mind.
and
Yeah,
never played a minute.
And
like,
he's
in the,
and he's
I would
top
say
30
Michael
all time.
Jordan and his mom probably are about the same, just
Oh,
because of how
shit.
much greater Michael Jordan
No.
is.
But no, for sure. Hey, that's a
There's
good
no
way to put
sleeping
it, though,
on
dude.
that.
Like,
But that's what
he
I
got-
see with
he
him.
got-
Like
he
he
got-
maximized himself.
Well,
Like
no,
and that's what I respect about him.
You got a problem with that, though. You do know that he played with a guy that literally had the best career for the absolute worst thing as a basketball player. Mark Jackson has the absolute worst basketball body in the history of mankind.
No,
he looks like a
he was
couch potato, and the guy's out there.
He's a 6'5"
like playing at elite
strong
level.
Johnny,
point
you
guard.
better
I
put some
disagree.
respect on
6'3".
Mark
I disagree
Jackson's
with that
name,
a
Johnny.
lot.
He maximized his talent for sure.
But-
He couldn't dunk.
I
guy
loved
couldn't
his
dunk. Mark Jackson
game,
couldn't
but
dunk.
man, Reggie was just.
We're talking about the most athletic position in the game.
The point
at
guard?
No, I'm talking about Reggie Miller playing the two. I watched a game like a Hardwood Classics. I guess he's going head to head against a younger Ray Allen, who I guess you could compare, statistically is the closest comparison to him. Going head to head against a younger Ray Allen and actually winning the matchup.
Yeah.
And blows
that's
by
tough.
guys and gets some dunks and shit. And it's like Reggie Miller is not known for that. And so he's got some herky jerky finishes and stuff. I don't know if he does that in today's league. I don't know if he's better than
Right.
Bradley Beal or somebody like that.
Right.
Oh,
But-
Bradley Bill's very good.
Bradley Beal's very
Extremely good.
Yeah.
But I mean, for watching that, for the Pacers to be as good as they were throughout the 90s and for him to be the catalyst of that, it's like, man, doing a lot with not as much as some of his peers.
Wade 185 approximately about.
Yeah,
yeah,
185,
185 doing
He's
that.
got so many, like just I tried to watch as many different videos. He was just one of those guys that, man, when it mattered, there was no doubt who was taking it.
Yep.
There was no doubt like he would put the pressure on himself. I was watching I watched like a couple clips of different series. Like there was one, I think it was the Knicks, where they were doing poorly to start. He throws on the Superman shirt to
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
it pushed all the blame on
Hey,
him. Like it was like,
dude,
and he
it's-
balled
Hey,
out.
What about when
because of
when
that.
Spike Lee starts talking shit? Like
Man,
that was
That's
the
might be
coolest.
my favorite thing ever.
He
That
hit him when he hit him with the like this after the comeback. It was like, dude.
You know how like
That's a-
Shawshank's my movie I'll always watch. Like no matter what, if I see it starting, like I'm jumping on. If there's a documentary and Reggie's got his hands on his throat and he's
I'm
talking to
watching
Spike
that.
Lee, like I'll stop whatever I'm doing. I'll be late. I'm finishing that. I
Yeah.
love when Reggie
Probably
did that.
top 10 iconic NBA moments.
Top
It's-
5, man.
It's, like
That's
If
a
he
for
had
next
won-
podcast.
If they had
We'll
won
go
the
over it.
series, if they had won the series,
That's true. That's true, man.
They
Yeah.
won the series, then maybe it's top 5.
Hey, let me ask y'all this, man. I don't want to. I think it's unfair to call Miller, Reggie, another victim of Jordan, because even if they do win in 97, 98, that's when they take the Bulls to 7 games, right?
The only one,
Before-
the
the only
only
one
one.
to take the Bulls to 7 games. I think even if they get past them, I don't see them beating the Jazz.
They had already
I don't.
just
Nah, man.
they'd already had just won their championship. If they beat them, they just won their championship. We talked about this someone else. You know
Let
what I mean?
me
If they
let,
got past them, they're fine. You're right. They're not going to win after
I don't
that.
see.
let me
yeah.
ask you guys this. They talk about how Reggie in 2000 becomes a free agent. Let's say he's modern day era. And now
Come to
he's
the Spurs, buddy.
where does he go? Where
Come to the Spurs.
you're Reggie Miller, you're
In
advising him
2000?
in 2000.
In the year 2000.
in the year 2000.
Where are you telling him to go to chase that ring?
Come to the Spurs, buddy.
I mean,
Johnny, the
nobody
Spurs are,
was stopping the Lakers.
Go
in
to
2000,
Sacramento.
man.
Go to Sacramento.
If
Be their
it's-
sixth man.
you said it. You said
Beat
in
the
the,
Lakers.
Hey, can you stop giving?
Beat the
Can you let
Lakers.
someone else have one choice? You've already said 4 teams.
Yes.
Let JB say his first word.
Johnny's just going through every good team in the league for the decade.
What's the right fit?
If he
Ooh, I got a good fit.
I mean, the
I've
key-
got my team too.
all right, man. Well, now it's gonna seem like I'm stealing.
Quickly, you
from
got
Johnny,
3
man.
seconds.
I'm
Three,
going
two.
with Kings. That'll be my.
I'm
final
going-
answer.
Hey,
I'm
I'm
going
gonna-
with Kings.
I'm gonna-
That's my
I'm
final
gonna
answer.
go-
Hey,
I'm
I'm
putting
going
him-
Lakers, man.
Lakers.
of course he's gonna win.
Okay, Kings, Lakers. I'm throwing him with
Portland.
Steve Nash on the Phoenix Suns. I want to see him
Well,
getting.
I said 2000.
2000.
Yeah.
Nash is not on the Suns,
No.
man.
Oh,
Come on,
shit.
Dustin.
I might throw him with
on.
Dirk and Dirk
Hey.
and Nash then.
Hey,
I might
you wanna-
throw.
there
we go.
I want him with Nash. Is what I sorry. I
Yeah,
got my
you
ears
throw-
wrong.
you
I might
throw-
throw him with Dirk and Dirk Nash. Is Josh Howard there yet?
No,
Damn. All right. I don't know.
he's later.
Who's
But
their
yeah,
3-man right at that point?
Why they let
Finley?
Nash go? I still
Like
don't get
Finley.
it.
All right.
It would have been Nash, Miller, Finley, Dirk, and
Nah, it's pretty damn good.
after that,
I
yeah.
like that.
that's tough.
I like the spacing.
That's
Carlisle, the coach, then?
Smart.
No.
No,
Hey,
man, no, it's
Utah,
not Nelson.
Utah's still intact in
well,
2000, right?
that's
still
fine.
got Stockton
That's
and
fine.
Malone.
Oh, he could have been that piece.
I mean,
Stockton,
they had
Malone,
they
Reggie.
were already kind of overloaded
God,
with
I'd feel so
non-athletic
bad for him.
wings.
If he
but-
went from Indiana to Utah,
Yeah.
that'd be a
Yeah.
tough life.
This is
Yeah.
my, hey, Reggie
Tough,
Miller's a
man.
great player.
Corn-
This is
corn-
my thing. man.
cornfields to Mormons, baby.
I don't know if he's a franchise player.
That's what we talked about
Yeah.
that, dude. That's
I don't know
no.
if he's a franchise.
Do you build your team if you have the choice? Do you build your team around Reggie Miller, right?
Yeah, I think he's
There's
a
not-
Robin to me.
There's
man.
not 10 players in the league at that time that you would have traded
Guys,
him
wait a
for
minute.
based off the legacy that he was relevant in like 8 different years of playoffs as the best player.
He said it though. He took the Bulls to 7.
Yeah.
What other guy would those?
Yeah, man, I
with
think
that
that's-
surrounding.
I think
Yeah,
that's disrespect to not. He's maybe his abilities might have been a Robin, but because of his mentality, he had a little bit of that MJ dog in him.
Oh,
that-
dude, he had
that-
no fear, and
That's
he,
what I- that's
what I
pressure,
love about him.
pressure didn't burst pipes for him. It made him stronger.
I'm
he
not.
just got
I'm not.
better in
Ma-
big
I'm
moments.
not handling the number 2. He's a number 1. He's
Yeah, I
like a
think
he's
a
a
number one.
He's a
You're-
top 10 guy in
You're
that
number
league.
one of a non-contending.
How
team.
many-
There are a contending team. They made it to Eastern Conference Finals like 4 times.
and they got screwed by the brawl. I mean, they probably go that year.
Basically, that's like saying is
Well,
James
he's not-
Harden.
He's not
that's
a franchise
basically
player at that.
that's
point.
asking is James
Yeah,
Harden a
true.
franchise
Yeah,
player
he is
because he
Robin
never
at that
gets
point.
there. If James Harden never gets there in 20 years,
Yeah,
someone
but-
might be stupid
But
enough to
he's
say he
but
wasn't a
Harden's
franchise
in
player.
and out of the MVP
Ah,
talks every year. You
I
telling me
really
Reggie
don't like
Miller's?
Harden.
Are you telling me Reggie Miller's MVP talk?
He
We'd
probably
have to
got
look it up. He
some
had to be
votes. He got
close.
votes. Mark Price got votes. I looked it up. He was in votes one year. So I know. Go ahead. Check
It-
my stats again.
If he's
Look,
he's
Reggie Miller is
constantly
kinda
a
like-
top 4 shooting guard.
By the
on a
way, Reggie was
top-
at 47%.
what was that?
Oh,
2
so
points?
you
Just
weren't
2
there.
points?
You're
You
4
weren't
points.
there.
50.
He's at the 47.
Very close. Very close.
He's at the 47, 40, 88 club. We don't know how.
Was this from
exclusive that is.
Basketball Reference?
Yeah.
This is a trivia guy right
Yes.
there. Wait a minute. We have someone with false answers.
It's like Klay Thompson numbers right there, right?
yeah, it's close.
No.
Dustin is fuming.
No. You
Hey,
guys.
is Reggie Miller better than
stay-
Klay Thompson?
No.
No,
No.
Absolutely not.
no, sir.
Can't
He's
because
not.
of the defense.
He's not a better defender.
So
Defense.
Klay Thompson
And
is,
he's not
is
a better
franchise
shooter.
player then.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, not really. Come on.
Just because he's
man.
playing with Steph Curry means he's not. Just because he's number
a
2 on
franchise
his
player
team.
has to be able to get his own shot.
Steph Curry's a top 25
you
player
can't
all
be a
time.
franchise player
Klay-
without getting your own shot.
Klay, please take on your own team so we can just end this nonsense.
Oh man,
The
we don't
disrespect
ever
on
we don't
Klay is
don't
just-
Clay
I
for
love
sure
Klay.
can make
He's
his
not
own.
a franchise player.
Oh man,
You don't
Yeah.
build a team around Klay.
I don't think so either.
yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah, no championship teams have ever had Clay as the
50,
foundation.
50,
of
40,
that.
90 is just you
Guard
don't-
the best wing every night. Like you just don't need that on a
you
team,
don't need
period.
that. Fuck it.
I do agree though. Klay Thompson's better just because of the defense.
He
His
is.
defense is
He
so
is.
much better.
He's better. But look, there's guys who are like y'all's obsession with being ball dominant. Just not. We can't like say like the more ball dominant guy is better than Klay
Name a
Thompson.
franchise player that wasn't.
It's
Ball
not. It's
dominant.
not an obsession. It's
Not
just
a center.
it's a necessity in this
But
game.
to say not a center, like Tim Duncan wasn't ball dominant. Dirk
Ooh.
Nowitzki wasn't ball dominant. Like I've watched plenty of their games. They let the
These-
ball move and they'd finish the shot clock
When
at
I
the end
say
of that
ball
shot.
dominant, at the end of the game, who's getting the ball and is going to score or make a play for someone?
Possibly
for
Clay
sure.
because
Well,
the
there's
ball
2
moves
of
when the
them.
Warriors
There's
are playing.
Clay and Steph. Because Steph technically isn't always ball dominant at the end of games. Was Steph no longer a franchise player when Kevin Durant was there? Like it's just stupid the criteria y'all are setting.
He is.
Nah,
Come
I
on.
don't-
Look at it with your
I
eyes.
don't know. We need to put this up to some type of.
Steph was
like,
doing it
vote.
before Durant.
Traditionalists.
I don't think he's as good. I don't think his talent. It's just he's like the ultimate 2 guard. Like Chris decided. Like Chris said. I mean, he had the perfect example because if I was
He's the
going to
ultimate 2 guard.
describe a
the
2
ultimate
guard,
2 guard. and he's
what I
not a
need, I want him
franchise level
6'7", hit threes, move without the ball, play
Absolutely.
awesome defense.
player. Agree
You don't
so
have
far.
to be
I
the
agree with
guy
all
that
that.
creates shots.
So you could
to
be
be the
the
ultimate
so
two-guard.
listen. You can be the ultimate,
but
at
not be
your
good enough for
position,
Sean and
but,
Johnny.
but not be a key, like not be a star player on your team.
It's weird. Ray Allen, is he a franchise player?
Yes.
He kind of was for 3
Yes.
years, but
For the
he
Sonics, he was a.
he was. But were they ever going to
Can
get
we
a
stop
championship?
hating on Ray Allen and Clay Thompson
they
and just
ever
like
gonna
move
get a
on to new
championship?
things? We get it. Y'all
Yeah.
hate them. Y'all are
I don't hate
ignorant.
him. I
Like
it.
it's fine.
Ig-
It's
just
fine. Like
ignorant.
ignorant. We
Dwight,
don't know
you,
the stats.
Dwight, you ignorant
you
slut.
ignorant slut. It's like my general rule is, would a stupid person say that? And if
We
not, I would
need-
not say that.
We
thing.
need the
Yeah.
definition of this franchise player thing.
Yes, y'all just needed to be a
Somehow.
ball dominant player. That's. I'll
Who
help
gets
y'all
the ball
out.
at the end of
I'll
the
help
game?
y'all
Who
out.
gets the ball at the
Yeah,
end of the game?
Ball
'Cause
dominant
it's
player.
not- you're not going to blow somebody out.
It's
right?
going to be Clay
Is he
Thompson.
the
if
highest?
Steph
Is
Curry's
he the
on
highest
floor.
paid player on his team?
Who?
Has he ever been?
I don't know, and I don't
Huh.
need that to be the. So you're
That's kind
saying
of how the teams. That's
you're
how the
saying-
GM.
okay,
and the people.
so
make the money
hypothetically,
describe
so
it.
when Westbrook made more money than Durant, Durant was not a franchise player, and Westbrook did
I
make
just
more money
almost
than Durant.
punched you.
So,
Don't ever bring up Westbrook
Could
better than
Scotty? Could
No,
Durant.
no, I'm asking you based off your criteria. I don't think
I
that.
think
I
it's-
think Durant's a top 15 player all time,
I think it's
Could-
part of the criteria.
Could Scotty have been a franchise player somewhere else?
Absolutely.
but he wouldn't have been the highest paid at that time. So this is weird.
Scotty was getting like
Your stupid ass
bad
rules are
economics.
backfiring.
I'm saying
It was-
it's
God,
a
y'all
part
are
of it.
terrible.
It's a
number
part of it.
154
Thank God,
in
someone locked
salary.
the
And
door when
because
Sean leaves.
because one guy signed the worst contract ever, which was
Man.
literally is that not the worst contract
Man.
in NBA history? Can we at least
Johnny,
agree on
can
that?
we agree that money shouldn't determine how good you are? Eyes
Absolutely.
and basketball IQ should
Absolutely.
determine that, and shut
No.
the hell up about
Absolutely.
it.
No,
Good
but
God,
you're
man.
telling me it doesn't. When someone says
No, I'm
normally the
telling
franchise
you-
player
I'm
gets
telling
paid
you,
the most.
Otto Porter. I'm telling you, Otto Porter's
yeah.
not better
They're
than
bad examples.
half like the guys that are really really good in this league. Even though he's making $25 million a
I
year,
agree.
I can tell you,
Alan
based on what
Crabble
I'm
is
watching.
Alan Crabble
Yeah.
signed a $68 million
I'm t-
contract.
yeah,
Terrible.
I'm telling you, there's a bunch of guys I'd probably rather have than John Wall right now with a torn Achilles.
Okay,
But just because he's making more money, so I just think it's stupid. I
Well,
think it's
well, no,
not
here's
worth talking
here's
about.
a
Let's
part
talk
of
about
it.
why they're
So,
better.
David Robinson's contract. You know what it basically said? I need to be paid in the top 3 in the league because
Good
I'm a
for him.
franchise player. If Klay Thompson said that to the Golden State Warriors, would he then all of a sudden become the highest paid player on that team, or would they say, "Well, we can get 2 players and we're going to have to work around this"? First of all, I love Klay Thompson, by the way. So
No, you don't. That is
like,
false. Do
dogging on
not
him.
listen to this.
I just don't
man.
think
Clay
he's
Thompson,
a-
if you're listening, you have 2 fans and 2 haters. Do not listen to them say.
I just
Don't let
think
them
he's a
hate on
franchise
you
player.
and then say they love you.
That's it.
All right, let's move on from Clay Thompson. We basically have a day. We basically have a weekly Clay Thompson segment. So
yeah, we got to include that in the
Klay
rundown.
Thompson.
Like,
Who are these
like,
people in San
ran-
Antonio?
yeah, Clay
Random-
Thompson rant.
yeah,
Like
randomly for 5 minutes,
and
we're
then we
gonna
can
fight
just
each
we
other
can just
about
cue
Clay.
it. We can just cue it where Sean or Johnny goes, "I love Clay Thompson," and then continues to shit on him for 5 minutes. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
man, you have a weird way of
Yeah.
loving people. That's awesome. But hey, let's move on to our final segment.
How about CBD? Do you
CBD
like that?
oil. Yeah, you guys are pain in my ass.
Yeah.
If you're having pains, you need to get CBD oil. Go to Natural Heights. Johnny, where are they?
Nacogdoches. I can't see the other
Hey.
numbers.
1880.
1880.
So if all 4 of us were going, we just need to go in one at a time, according to our
yeah,
governor. So
according
25% of
to-
us at a time, and
yeah.
then we're all getting our CBD oil. One of us deals with stress, some anxiety, some joint pain, PTSD, insomnia.
Others maybe
I have-
maybe not.
I have
Maybe
none of those
maybe you're
things.
just going because you like CBD.
Yeah.
Who's to say? Who's to say?
Just smoke real weed. It does the same thing.
Tampa Johnny.
As we go on to our movies, and if you have anything else, let's just kind of roll through. I've been doing my morning emails. I've been trying to hit like a classic, like something that's been nominated by one of the major things. Trying to watch each morning, so it's kind of I've really enjoyed it. Some of the older stuff that I was a little before my time.
Man, dude, you're getting you're using this
I'm
quarantine.
enjoying it.
You
I'm
are-
actually not ready to go back to work. I like working from home. I'm actually not.
Man.
The social aspect, I'm ready to get out of here.
Living your best life though. Otherwise,
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So what's the movie that's caught y'all's eye?
well,
Go ahead.
mine's a series. Sean and I actually binge watched it yesterday. It's
Yeah.
called
Ooh,
Wake
nice.
Waco on
Waco.
Netflix.
Oh, I heard
the
about it. It's
Brand-
like top 10.
Yeah,
It's
dude,
good.
Right
the
now,
on the
yeah.
Branch Davidian thing, and let me tell you, like if you're watching it,
If you're into polygamy,
yeah, if you're into polygamy and weird cults in your home state, it could be for you. But no, dude, at by the time it gets done, I like it.
One season?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
six
It's a
episodes.
How many
limited
episodes?
series.
Six
episodes,
Yeah.
4 hours to get through the whole thing.
Okay,
Yeah,
wow.
most episodes are like 50 minutes or
Okay.
so, but yeah, just the covers the it's a dramatized, but covers the Branch Davidian thing in Waco, and by the end of it, it has it does do a decent job, I think, of exposing what was going on in the compound and how weird it really was. But then it also, what I appreciated about it is it has you rightfully questioning
Janet
the
Reno.
government's
Ah.
response, the ATF, the FBI, and at the end of the day, 3/4 of the compound is killed.
25 kids.
Yeah, 25 kids,
25
and
kids,
so it makes you think a bit, and it kind of, to me, it exposes the black eyes on both sides. But yeah, you don't expect to, because of the way the media has presented it over the years and the way that propaganda works. It's like you don't expect to go into something, a documentary about a cult or a docuseries about the cult, coming out kind of like with a more negative opinion of the feds. But it was
Yeah.
for people that aren't familiar with the situation, I think that would be a
It
surprising
didn't
thing.
have to go down like that.
No,
Absolutely,
no,
100% for
no.
sure.
Did not.
100%.
Look, you watch a great movie or a great series when at the end of the day, like if you can empathize with the antagonist, and
Yeah.
you can kind of, at the end of the day, I was sitting there like, man, maybe David Koresh, maybe he wasn't in the wrong in this situation.
Listen to some of the people that left that were and I watched another cult movie about one in Oregon back in the 70s, but I watched a guy wrote a book about it, and this guy was getting hard questions, and he said basically like so much of the stuff that you hear is not true, and he wrote a book about it, and he came off at the end of it, I was like, exactly what you said, I was like, maybe David Koresh wasn't exactly what they were saying he was. Like maybe he's a nut job and some of this other stuff.
Absolutely,
but
was absolutely weird. And
Yeah,
like I said,
yeah.
they for a dramatic series did a great job of showing that. But it also, to me, whenever you can humanize the side that's normally painted as being the bad guy or being the
Yeah.
crazies, it's like they humanize them in a way that really makes you think. And then it's just like they went down the list at the end. I think there was a radio show host
Yeah.
that was talking about the instances in which that feds used gas that had incendiary qualities, where it
They
turned
knew.
into a fire
I mean,
and killed people.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, they're never going to admit fault, but here are 8 different cases where that's happened. And I also liked it included it kind of prefaced everything with the Randy Weaver Ruby Ridge thing in Idaho.
Yes.
And it kind of shows, his wife and child are killed in that.
Yep.
And
that
so
was bad.
yeah. And so he's later on acquitted. It didn't mention
Did
that, but
nothing wrong.
he gets acquitted.
This
for
is
that.
the
Nothing wrong.
second series because I finished the Unabomber series a little bit before
Ooh,
doing
have you
Waco.
read the Unabomber manifesto?
I have not read the 50-page manifesto.
Very interesting stuff.
Sorry.
God damn it,
But
Johnny.
both of these series are always tying it back into Ruby Ridge. So like I don't know if I have to read up more on it or wait for the
Oh,
Netflix
So
series
basically,
to
it
come out.
was basically selling
Yeah.
selling illegal sawed-off shotguns. But then it kind of makes you think. It's like, man, they're willing to put entire budgets on the line, and in certain cases, get your budget increased for targeting and pursuing, people that are doing something, selling a couple guns.
Who doesn't-
And so it's
Yeah.
like, yes,
In
that's
Texas,
bad. But
that's
Who
it's like,
doesn't have a
very
sawed-off
normal.
shotgun in
Yeah.
Texas, right?
Just weird, quick, random thing. And I actually I didn't have the money at the time, but my friend's dad owned in New Braunfels, right outside New Braunfels, a classic car dealership, had David Koresh's Camaro there,
No
still
shit.
with a Bolo. And it was probably at the time like $40,000. I could probably sell it for $500,000 right now
Probably.
or
Yeah.
more. And it was a really badass, all black on black.
they ran
original,
a
old school.
tank over one of his other cars.
Wasn't that
And
one?
he was on the phone, like on the show, but I mean it's a recorded call as well. He's like, you ran over, like,
My
you can't,
SS Camaro.
you
yeah.
my SS, you can't find those anymore. But no, that was, that's our, I guess, recommendation.
shows.
It really
Johnny,
cool.
you watching anything right now?
So an old school recommendation, if y'all have not seen this, it's really, really good, especially if you're Justin, you had to have seen this. Life of Brian by Monty Python.
Yeah.
It's so weird. You're watching this show and it's like old. Like you're like, it's super old. It looks old, all this stuff. The jokes are just absolutely still spot on. It's, Biggest Dickus. That's all I got to say. Just Biggest Dickus, the Roman emperor. And the guy's not laughing. Like, it's one of the funniest things you're ever going to see. And you know, on set back then that the guys were like literally just cracking up and dying. So if you have some time to watch an old school movie, that's a really good one if you haven't seen it.
What about you, Dustin?
So my last two, I've watched The Amazing Mr. Ripley. It's Matt Damon, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Is that The Amazing or
Oh,
The
that's
Talented?
Is it
No,
the
no,
Talented
Talented,
Mr. Ripley.
Talented Mr.
Talented.
Ripley? Sorry.
Yeah.
So he's just basically he's a
good
meets
movie.
a rich dad, fakes it becoming a Princeton grad, and it's just Matt Damon's one of my all time favorite
Fake it
actors.
till you make it.
And so he kind of, it's one of those like you're not sure what's going to happen. And Gwyneth Paltrow, I think, is one of my favorite actresses as well. So it's an old school. It's pretty simple. Like it's kind of like you're talking. You can tell that it was filmed a long time ago, but two great. And then I watched Silver Linings Playbook, and that one was one that
Bit of a tearjerker.
I
Bit of a
my
bit of
eyes-
a heartstringer. Bit of one of those.
I didn't. I feel stupid. I didn't know what it was about at first, so I went in just like I wasn't sure, and I was.
There's a movie.
My eyes got wet, and that's right. I wasn't sure. I was like,
It's a movie.
But I loved how they approached, mental health and the
Man.
way that I just thought the depth of it. It was just so powerful to me. It was
It's a
one of the
remake,
To be honest, they kind
really.
of
I didn't. I had.
Barbara Streisand made it back in the 70s.
It was one of my I might have to put in a top 20. Just the emotional
good,
and
though.
the way that they
to be
it was-
honest, they got in early as far as now that's a huge it's a huge facet of our societal consciousness, but it's like that movie, it's not an old movie, but it's like
Before its
I thought it was
time.
before a little
Yeah.
bit before its time in that regard, but I really
Jennifer
Yeah, so-
Lawrence I thought she was awesome in
Yeah,
that.
for
I forgot that she was my general rule is if I forget that you're just incredibly hot, I'm just impressed at how good you're acting. I'm
Yeah.
like that, and so
Wait,
and
this
she
is
was I was just so
not
impressed
a
by her
remake.
acting.
Well, that-
Not a remake. I'm thinking of a different movie.
Okay, I would have believed
I was
you
going
either
to
way, but
dispute that.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I'm thinking of a different
I
movie.
would have. Yeah, it's okay. But yeah, I thought those are my two so far this week that I've watched.
Who was the
that-
male actor in that?
Silver Lining Playbook is
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper.
Jennifer
That is-
Lawrence.
ooh.
Are those
She
both of
w-
those are on Netflix, right?
Correct.
Netflix.
Correct. I'm just basically it's pretty cool. They have award nominated shows on Netflix, and you can just roll through that.
The
and
critically acclaimed.
critically
Yeah, yeah,
acclaimed,
exactly.
yep. And so I've just been rolling through those, and I think my next one's gonna be Marriage Story. So I'm probably gonna hit that one next, and so we'll update that.
Let
next on the
let them
podcast
know how that. If I don't watch it before then I'm just gonna wait for the podcast for you to test it out.
to explain.
Yeah, exactly.
I've heard good things. I've heard good
Okay.
things. All right. Any books, podcasts? I've already plugged the ones I've been reading from y'all.
my main podcast recommendation at the moment is the Escape podcast, which you are watching and listening to
That's
now.
great.
Like,
That's great.
Subscribe, share, all that stuff.
Great.
Better
Great
than whatever
company,
else
man.
you're listening to, I promise. But yeah, that's my suggestion.
Shameless plug. I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
On our own show. Even more
yeah,
shameless.
I'm plugging the shit out of it.
Steeper decline. Mark Jackson player to Mark Jackson the announcer.
Ooh.
Coach was terrible in my opinion. Jeez, his
Coach
decline.
defense, at
But
least.
I mean,
all time, I've always the guy. He is so he's like Homer Simpson. It's like I'm now going to be in the NBA, and I'm going to post up other point guards as my number
you
one
see
weapon.
him
If he'd
as a
left,
point guard.
if he'd left his Bible at home, he would have had a few rings by now.
Ooh, maybe.
I don't
He-
think so.
if he'd left
I
it-
think
if he'd
Steve
left
Lawrence
his-
meant
Did he
for that
preach
team.
defense though, the way Kerr did?
No, probably not. But he built that team and did all the groundwork. And then Kerr came in. And
He's
it's like
Collins.
we've talked about this before.
Fixed the
Maybe
offense.
if
Yeah.
the majority share owner of your team is a homosexual man, you probably should leave the evangelical shit at home. He chose not to, and now he, like I said, he's announcing and
He's
not
doing good for
coaching.
himself.
No, he's doing fine. I mean, he doesn't have to worry about money. But as far as rings go, he's
Not
been
even a big fan of his announcing. Really.
Well, no,
He's
he-
a caricature. Even at
Mm.
26, I was listening to some of his interviews about Reggie Miller. He just says the same four things over and over again. There's just very little depth. It's
Getting
just
paid.
he's a
Getting
Woody
paid.
doll. You pull the cord, and one of six
Yeah.
one of six things gets told, and then that's
Well,
what
now,
you get.
with announcers, it's nuts though, because it's like, do you want them to be little robots and say the same four things like Mark Jackson, or do you
No.
want them to go off into
Bill
the,
Walton.
do you want them to go off into the abyss like Bill Walton and Chris Webber and
And
guys like
Van
that?
Gundy, Van Gundy's like a podcast.
Yeah.
Like
I
it's-
like
Oh, he
I
says
like
anything.
that. I'm a
He
fan.
says anything.
Hey, Van
I
Gundy
like
and
that
Hubie
stuff.
Brown.
He's like, who's
I
that in
love.
the stands with popcorn? Can I have some? And he'll just start talking about the history of popcorn. And you're like,
Yeah,
what the hell
man.
are you doing?
or
Van
it's like,
Gundy?
hey, what do y'all think about creating a 4-pointer? And I'm like, well, this has nothing.
Hey.
But I like listening to it. You
Hey,
know,
dude,
like
fun fact, dude. Sean and I were in a basketball camp one time in high school with the Van Gundy's father. The Van Gundy Sr. was a coach in the camp. And I mean, this is for sure while he's on his way out of coaching, and into, retirement. But guys, just a bulldog, like on your ass the entire time. And like, this is a camp where we are probably some of the only blue collar kids in it. Like
Where
most
was
of the
this
other
camp?
kids
In Commerce, Texas.
Commerce. Yeah.
Wow,
It's
that's
called,
random.
it's called Texas Prep, and he's just at it. And they're like, yeah, this is Jeff and Stan Van Gundy's dad. And at the time, this is when Stan is coaching the Magic, and they're making
Big time.
Two sons coaching, head coaching.
head
Yeah.
coaches in the
Random.
NBA. But yeah, just an absolute bastard, but in a good way. Just
Yeah.
on
You need
on
that.
us. Yeah,
Everyone needs
just
that.
on us. And it
For a
was,
coach.
Yeah. Oh, man.
That's that type of person. We all have that story of one coach that just was honest enough to the point where he wouldn't let us be a soft,
like
soft little
he won't let you be
bitch.
soft.
And yeah, he's like,
Exactly.
you every
Yeah,
player needs
the
that.
Van
Every kid
Gundys.
needs
The
that.
Van Gundys get that, and then videos of Stan Van Gundy demonstrating
Stan
ball
Van.
handling. The Van Gundys are forever good in
They're
my
awesome.
book, man.
Well, we have just enough time to get final thoughts on everybody. Johnny, we'll start on you because you'll be the biggest wild card, and we don't want to finish with you anymore. We've written that down. So,
No, we noted that last time.
so Sean, if he starts going off on a tangent, we might just jump to you. And Sean,
No, I guess it's totally off topic, but I just doing research on this. The fact that in 1992, when I was looking for like Dream Team and Reggie Miller stuff, when he didn't make the Dream Team, Mark Price was All NBA first team over John Stockton that year, and that's just mind-boggling to me. When you go look at their stats, Stockton was like the same amount of points but double the assist. Like I'm like, who is voting this year? Did like people just lose their mind? And be like, he needs it because he's a 6-foot white guy. I mean, that's like. But it's Stockton. He beat out another
Yeah.
6-foot white guy.
Yeah.
It's so weird to me.
that's like the year Karl Malone got the MVP because someone wrote an article and it was like, no, Malone was not the MVP that year. Yeah, that's good. I like
It's
that.
Jordan for
That's-
a good one.
That is by far your best.
years.
Good job, Johnny.
Yeah.
Great job,
Nice.
Sean.
Quick sign off, guys. Governor Abbott doesn't require you to wear face coverings in this opening in these phases. It's not living in fear. It's just being considerate. So if you are going to go out, if you are going to take a chance, just be responsible.
Get
wear,
your
wear
V
your
for
face
Vendetta
coverings.
mask.
And JB, man, send us out. You got the
Man.
final word in the closing.
Let me use this platform to just urge everyone that touches this podcast, if somehow, some way you've made it to the end of this show, just read more than one thing before you venture out into the world of social media or political discourse or even casual conversation with your friends and loved ones. Read more than one thing.
From both sides.
Do some sort of critical thinking and some sort of research before you venture out into the world with a half-assed opinion. And if everyone just does that, man, we will be in so much of a better place than we are now. So, but yeah, thanks for listening.
All right, guys, signing off. See you next time. Pub Sports Radio. This is the Escape Pod.